Knights, Hearken, episode 19 of the Arad Airways podcast. And guys, I just have to say, happy 10-year anniversary, everybody. Now, the actual anniversary was a few weeks back, but the festivities are still raging on in the game with a lot of great prizes and events that are going on related to that. So definitely don't miss out on that. And if I can just flex for a little bit in this intro, this plaque right here marks 10 years of my life that I have devoted to this version of the game. And it's not just me, of course. There are many of us, and there are many more that probably deserve to also be on this list, but just missed those key dates and forgot to pick up the coin or whatever. They are all here on this board that I'm showcasing right now, and they show the account names of everybody. These are people, many of whom I am at least familiar with, if not personally, then by sheer osmosis, I've seen their name around here. It's 10 years, guys. We've all been playing the game for that long, and I think it's a really cool gesture that Neopol has this in the game to give us a little bit of appreciation for that, and I appreciate them as well. And if I may say a couple words about these past 10 years, let me just say this, okay? As someone who has dedicated an enormous portion of his life to playing, supporting, and promoting this game with content, I say this with a very serious tone. I do not regret for even a second any of that time, money, or effort and lifespan that I have spent on DFO. Full stop. Now, in the past, I have made many disparaging comments about DFOG, but it has always been out of sheer, genuine passion that I have for this game. I may share my time in DFOG with other games now, like Tekken and Lost Ark, something I didn't do for the greater majority of DFOG's life, but do not get it twisted, okay? I still think DFOG is my favorite MMO out there right now, and DFOG is doing a fine enough job managing that. And now that a brand new level cap is here, it's time for yet another adventure in Arad. I understand that not everybody feels this way, okay? We've lost a lot of great adventures along the way. Maybe they've stepped into real life. Maybe they found other games. Maybe they flat out found something better to do with their time. But whatever the case, I still personally think that DFO offers an experience that simply can't exist anywhere else. It has always been an incredibly unique game and unmatched over its 15-year tenure. Some of us have known and loved the game for that long, and here's hoping that many more years are here to come. And so, with that out of the way, it's now time to talk about 115 cap, boys. All right, so I've already been asked this question many times. The cap has been out for a couple weeks now as I'm editing this video. So I've been asked many times, hey, Rick, what do I think about this level cap? And the thing I got to say is I enjoy this level cap. What I do feel like it is, though, it does feel like an extension, like a different variation of the previous level cap that we had in the 110 cap. In that I do feel like a lot of it is still focused around doing your advanced dungeon weeklies. You still have to focus on the fusions, for instance, and you still have to focus on doing weeklies and dailies. The only difference is now their dailies are much more streamlined. They are more purposefully built to get you to do the daily so that you can get the tokens, so that you can get your oracle blessings, and to do the weeklies as well so that you can get even more oracles to do more hell modes and have a potential to get gear out of any of that content that I just mentioned, both the dailies and the weeklies. So it is much more streamlined in that way, but it does feel very similar to the last level cap in that you're still kind of doing the content progression path the same way that you did in the previous cap. I will mention one thing that I really enjoy about this cap is just the variety of the gear that we have, how much easier it is to get geared from start to finish. You know, the progression path is really nice. There's a lot of great quality of life things, like for instance, they've removed passives that you don't have to worry about anymore, like gear passives. Generally, characters were locked into what type of gear type they can use. That limitation has been removed for pretty much most all the characters in the game, minus a very select few that kind of still need it, but you know, convenience things like you can inherit, like mass inherit things right away, and that's really important because you're going to be doing that a lot in this cap as you constantly keep getting better and better gear. Just slot it in and boom, you got a damage increase. You don't want to lose your fusions and your enchants. It transfers along really well. They've done a lot of great things to really promote the idea of using your alts to progress, and that can be looked down as a pro or a con depending on what type of player you are. Obviously, I'm an altaholic. I have pretty much everyone in the game, so it's really beneficial for me because it gives me a lot of reason to play these other characters. But I will say that early on right now, it feels like it's about the only thing I can do to keep playing for long periods of time. There isn't a lot of content in the game currently that I can just use my main character, my EK for instance, to just play and do it all day, do something. Unfortunately, I'm just doing Hells. I'm funneling all my Hell mode tickets and stuff, using old Epic Souls to just do Hells constantly on my EK. And pretty much everyone else doesn't have much else to do after their dailies and weeklies are done. I'm just running normal dungeons. So that is the one thing. It's like, after I run out of Hells, like, what am I going to do in terms of content? I feel like that's where we're really lacking right now, is that they don't have a really great farming system. They've kind of nerfed the gold generation. I wasn't really a big gold farmer in general, but guys, the Maleficent energy farming thing is really, really whack and really bad. I don't even bother doing it. I think your time is probably better spent getting gears by doing the normal dungeons right now. But it does seem like we're limited. Like, if I wasn't forcing myself to play 20 characters a week, guys, and I only played like my top 5 or 12 like I did in the last cap, I really could not just do content for very long. In the previous cap, I had so many Hells that I can do on so many characters. I couldn't even get through them all. You had things like Ashran Library that you were doing every week. You know, they were more than just farming Hells. Hells you can go through so fast now with a cool addition. And something that's really cool is that they have the endless Hell dungeon. You just keep running to the right and get another Hell dungeon. Makes utilizing your Hells much easier, but getting them right now is a lot harder than it has in the previous cap. I think that's something that would have been really useful in the last cap, where I had so many account bound Hell materials. I was getting so many runs of Hells. Now I'm kind of like, dude, maybe it's just because we're at the start of the cap and we don't have all the content yet, but it kind of feels like, dude, you made the Hells easier, but then you made it harder to get the Hells. You know, so it's like, can't have the best of both worlds like you did in the last cap. So yeah, that's kind of where I feel like on this cap. It feels a lot like the last cap. It really is focusing a lot on streamlining the dailies and weekly systems that we have. But after that, I kind of feel like we need more content to do aside from just running normal dungeons and hoping that you get gear. Which is something you could do, and you could do on 20 characters. But if you're only playing a couple characters, I don't know how you kind of sustain yourself for very long in the current state of DFO. So we're going to need more content for sure. Hopefully that comes soon. But guys, that's kind of my general opinion. I am enjoying the cap right now. I'm just kind of playing 20 characters and keeping myself busy. But let me give my biggest pros and cons of the cap. And we'll start with the pros, of course. First things first, guys, is the Armory System. I am so tired of loading up all of your epics into your giant safe, trying to organize them, trying to figure out where everything is. And you can kind of tell this is the direction that they were going in with the last cap. They had this kind of custom catalog, and they've done the same thing now with the actual epics themselves in the Armory System. And to kind of recap how this works, effectively all of the gear that you get in the new level cap is gear that can be added to the Armory System, and effectively you can treat it like a catalog. The catalog will always show you the highest rarity of each gear that you get. The rarities of gear is something that is a big part of this cap. You start off with rare, a starter set, and then you go into unique, legendary, epic, and then primeval. So you have all those rarities in between, and each of those gear slots has an applicable rarity associated with it. So you actually don't have that many gear sets. I think you only have like 11 gear sets to choose from. But each of those gear sets has all of these rarities of each slot of gear. So there are a lot of different epics when you really break it down like that. You only look at the sets like, oh, there's only 11 sets. But yeah, you got to remember, each of those sets has, each of the 10 gear slots has one, and each of those 10 gear slots also has all the rarities. So it would be a ton of epics if we were going to put them in our storage and try to capture them and keep a track of which ones you had. It would have been a nightmare. But with the Armory System, easy. Always shows you the highest rarity of stuff. So I greatly appreciate it. And it really goes into how the game normally plays, you know. It's not like they got rid of disassembling. You're still going to disassemble gear for cubes and for souls. You still do that. It's just that instead of like disappearing forever, this item is instead added to the Armory System, and you can remake it back with the same materials that you used to disassemble and earn from that way. So it's really cool because it kind of plays into my next pro, that these epic souls, or I should say all of the souls, all of the rarity souls from rare, unique, legendary, epic, and primeval. All of those souls are useful in this cap. And the reason why I like that is because it allows you to utilize your account to farm souls, which you're going to need for various other systems that are available in the game. Generally, these other systems are kind of ways that you can use your alts to either funnel onto your main or use your main to funnel onto your alts. Basically, they become an account-bound resource that you use for other systems to help each other out, you know? For instance, you need souls to transcend gear. Okay, it needs to be the same rarity of type of gear that you're transferring. So say I get a really good epic I want to give to my main. It's going to take a lot of epic souls to transfer or transcend that epic to another character in my account. The thing that I've been really abusing lately is that when you farm normal dungeons, you sometimes get this little bird that comes up, and that bird can often sell you these boxes, and these are selectable boxes that have pots in them that can allow you to open a rarity of a particular set. So again, there's 11 sets, and because the bird is selling these different rarity boxes, they can be like legendary or epic or something. It costs a lot of gold, but unfortunately to open these boxes you need souls. You need 10 of an equivalent soul. So you buy this legendary box, you can pick any set that you want, and then basically you're gambling 10 of the rarity souls to try and get a piece that you don't already have, so to progress your character. In fact, I would say that's the main way most people are progressing right now, is by use of those boxes, because they're effectively one of the few ways that you have to dictate your fate as to what set you're going to get. Otherwise, you're just doing hells and normal dungeons and advanced dungeons and all this stuff. You're just doing all of this and getting random epics, and again, like I said, there's a lot of them to have. This is one way to direct it, and you need kind of souls as a resource to do that. Again, there's a monthly NPC that you can, for instance, use your unique souls, and you can buy 8 unique soul pots, and those I think cost 15 souls, and you get 8 of them a month. So it's a way to try to boost a character up really quickly and get them in a unique set. Again, souls are an awesome resource, and of course anything that you do on these alternate characters, from farming hells to doing advanced dungeons, will give you a better stockpile of souls. So in that way, I think other caps have done it in similar ways to kind of like progress your whole account. This is a very straightforward and very like itemized way of saying, hey man, souls are really important in this cap, and you can use your whole account to get more souls. Okay, so I really like that about this cap. I think it's really smart how they've done it. But I do have some reservations I'll talk about later when it comes to that. But that portion I really like. I think it's something that it's really fun to abuse. I just wish it was not so necessary to rely on alts to abuse this feature. You know, I don't want to get too deep into it. I just want to say I like the system. I just wish it worked a little bit differently and didn't punish people who didn't have a lot of characters. If you only have a few characters, now it makes it harder to abuse systems like the monthly free uniques or any of the boxes that you can pick up. It makes it harder because you don't have the soul resources that other people do. So it's an awesome system. I want to see it in the future, but it does have some reservations with me. Kind of in that same vein, I think one other thing that I really like about this cap is the speed and accessibility of gearing up a new character. Okay, what they do is effectively give you a entire starter set, which is like your rare set, and that rare set can be crafted immediately, and it is very good. Let's put it that way. It's extremely good. In fact, most characters that I have geared up to max level, I've just slapped on the starter set and then forgot about every piece of gear before that, because it is that good. It is kind of scaled around the starting point of being able to do most of the old content, and it is really, really easy and accessible to slot in new pieces of gear as you get them. So it doesn't really matter at the start. Of course, you're trying to build towards a particular set of gear in this cap. Of those 11 sets, you're trying to build towards one of them. But when you're starting out, you could just kind of slap on whatever you want, and it has a lot of base stats on its own, even though you don't have a real set effect yet. You don't have to worry about set effects until you have a full unique set in one of the sets already. But until you get to that point, guys, you're just slapping on the highest rarity stuff. Sometimes you get epics, which can contribute heavily to a set, but not quite get you to unique level. Slap it on. Put on any legendary you find. Put on any epics that you find. Just slap them on. You're going to get a huge damage boost over the starter gear set. And the starter gear set was already strong. So it's something that I think that previous versions, previous caps of this game have struggled with, is that they kind of lock the progression system behind having to do something else first. Think about 100 cap, guys. You had to farm a legendary set. Huge point of contention for me back then, because as the game got further on, they actually made the system harder to get into. It was a legendary set before you even started farming your epic set. So they made that barrier of entry to the end game content locked behind this like farming system that you do one time and never again. Now they just like, screw that. Here's this starter set. It's not the best, obviously, and then immediately start doing end game content. Start doing advanced dungeons, and they have these tiered system advanced dungeons. You do the lower level ones, and when you get high enough fame and strong enough, you won't be doing those low ones anymore because you can only do 2 a week. You progress linearly. It's a staircase of progression, but you start at that staircase immediately when you get to the max level. And I think that is necessary. Okay, I'm so tired of this concept of, oh, you got to get this preliminary set before you can enjoy the end game. No, you enjoy the end game immediately once you get there with a good starter set. Big thumbs up from me. My only gripe with that is that I think that the unique set, getting a full unique set, might be a little too challenging. It might take a little too long than I'm willing to give them. I think it's a little bit too difficult to get. Aside from the Grimoire NPC, which is a great way to try to streamline a few pieces if you're lucky, getting a full unique set will require quite a bit of effort. And I feel like a unique set is where you actually start feeling the differences of the set, instead of just having big stat bonuses. I wish it was easier to get uniques, or some other way to get a guarantee unique at least, and then have the other stuff locked behind RNG. Currently, everything's locked behind RNG, and that's the only way you can progress unless you use the, again, Grimoire NPC. But yeah, I feel like uniques shouldn't be as hard to get as they are. They're kind of treated in the same level as like legendary and epic, and I don't think they should be. I think unique should be easier to get, in my opinion, but maybe I don't realize all the content we have to get uniques, but that's where I'm at right now. Oh yeah, and one thing that I want to mention about the progression is that they have built in a way to check whether or not a gear is going to be stronger or weaker than what you're currently wearing in the equipment simulator. Now, unfortunately, it only works with the newest gear, but effectively every gear that you get in this level cap you can put into the simulator, and it will show you whether or not you will get a damage increase for switching or not, which I think that is super awesome. I think every game should have this. It's so funny comparing this game to like 100 cap when we had our external calculators that had to run and figure out what was the best set. This is effectively that, except it's built into the game and it's very quick and very efficient. Make sure that you tab over and check down the cooldown, because generally it's going to show you total damage, which includes your awakening damage, but maybe you want to find out if your set is best for cooldown related buffs, in which case you have to tab over and cycle through there. So don't always go off of total damage, but aside from that, I find it to be pretty accurate, and it could show you where you can get big damages by just swapping pieces of gear out. It's pretty cool. Now, in the same vein of gearing, one of my favorite things in this cap is that the gearing, as I mentioned, you can swap in all of these gears that you want, and it can be of any set. It has a lot of base stat. It's strong in its own, and even if you don't have a full set effect, especially early on, that's not really important. But what happens eventually is that you're going to get stronger and stronger sets, and what you can do is actually overcompensate. So if you get a really rare piece of gear on one slot of gear, it overcompensates for having not so high rarity on another piece of gear. In fact, you can get to the point where you can have so many higher stats on your other pieces of gear that you can just take off that gear entirely, and now becomes a free space of any epic. You can put any piece of gear that you want and still not lose the set effect and still maintain most of the power of your gear set. Why is that important? Because, guys, it allows you to do something you've never been able to do in this game, and that is efficiently use old gear in slots just for the utility. Of course, this is not going to produce the strongest amount of damage putting on old gear like from the previous level caps and stuff. Obviously, that old gear is outdated, but that old gear was really, really unique in that there were a lot of cool epics back in the previous cap that were great single slot pieces of gear. Okay, I'm talking about 4-switch ring. That's a single ring that has a lot of cooldown reduction, could have a lot of speed, could have a lot of damage. Of course, a regular ring nowadays is going to be way stronger than 4-switch ring, but that utility, guys, they don't really have utility built into single pieces of gear like they did in the previous cap. Well, this cap allows you to be able to utilize that utility in the new level cap. Okay, one thing I'm doing on pretty much all of my characters, because I'm grinding a lot and I'm farming a lot of content, is that I leave their earring slot open so that I can put my explosive type earring there. That explosive type gives you 53% move speed, 30% other speed. It is so awesome and convenient. It makes you zoom across dungeons. I'm doing dungeons way faster. I may not be as strong because I'm basically giving up my earring slot for a normal earring, but you can, like I said, overcompensate and still make up that damage and still get to have the utility of the 110 cap epics like explosive type that have a ton of move speed or something on them. You can wear Force Witch still that has a ton of cooldown reduction. So if you have struggle with your cooldowns or you're not having fun playing the game because your cooldowns are too long, you can slot in these types of epics and still maintain decent damage with how the set points work in this new level cap. It's pretty freaking awesome. I'm using it for farming Hells. I'm using it for farming the Gaze of the Maleficents. I'm using it to farm basically anything. All of my characters are wearing it right now, and I am willing to take the damage loss of that one piece of gear from my earring just to have that great utility of 53% move speed. It's something that is invaluable. I'm really happy that most of my characters already had that just for farming purposes. Is a really useful epic to have, and I'm glad I have that on all 20 of my characters. And like I said, this is the first time I think we've ever had this ability. Most of the time in the previous caps, sets are composed of every slot of gear composed a part of a set. So if I take off my earring, for instance, I'm going to lose like a 3-set effect somewhere. Okay, if I slot in some new shoes because I wanted some more movement speed out of my full plate shoes, for instance, that was 85 cap tactics, you would lose your armor set effect, for instance. So it's just something that like you couldn't really overcompensate. You would lose your set effects, you would lose a ton of damage. There was no realistic way for you to be able to do that in the previous caps, and now you can with any slot of gear. I'm sure you guys can come up with way more broken combinations utilizing some older gear like in the previous cap, but for what I'm doing, I love the movement speed that I get out of explosive type, and at least I'm having that. But again, something you couldn't do in the previous cap, and something I highly commend them for doing, making it versatile enough to allow you to do that, because it doesn't really make sense, especially for content that you are over geared for anyway. Okay, what's the point of just wearing stronger and stronger gear when you one-shot people anyway in the content that you're doing? You know, it's like, dude, I want to be able to wear more utility focused gear when it's appropriate. You know, I don't have to wear it for the strongest gear all the freaking time. Sometimes you get a gear set just for the utility or just for farming or just for whatever you're doing. In previous caps, you really had to super overcompensate or just be able to kill everything with basic attack before you were able to do that. Now you could do that pretty regularly. Like I said, I'm doing it right at the start. And explosive type is luckily not a big nerf in damage, but I'm just saying, so cool you can do that. You could never do that before without breaking sets. Now you can wear it part of the set. It's pretty awesome. And the very last thing I'm going to mention that I really like about this cap, guys, is the introduction of cool epic weapons again. Okay, all the other 10 slots, your armor, accessory, and sub equipments, those are very like, just get the set effects. Okay, you're not mix and matching. You're gonna get the set effects. They're pretty lame. You're just always gonna pick the best one. There's one for damage, one for cooldown, one for proc, and that's it. There's like effectively 3 sets you can really shoot for, and if you're doing anything else, you're kind of nerfing yourself because they're not very unique. Okay, so it's like the normal sets are just kind of boring. Just get the best one for the type of playstyle you want. Okay, if you want cooldown, just get the Cleansing Darkness set. Okay, that's the only good one that gives a lot of cooldown. If you want a lot of damage, okay, the one I'm going on my EK, just get the Hideout Endless Gold set. That is the Amplification set, and you can get a ton of damage off of that. It's like the best in slot. You know, there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. I'm not a big fan of the Armory armor sets or the full 10-piece sets, but what I am a fan of, guys, is they introduced awesome epic weapons again. Okay, and when I say epic weapons, really they go up to the primeval rarity. So I mean basically primeval weapons. So there is one weapon type starting at legendary going up to primeval that has unique effects. Yes, they have a version of a weapon that is just for stats. Okay, I think it's just called the Heroic Saga weapon. Heroic Saga is just like your basic strong beat stick. Okay, but the best in slot weapons pretty much for everyone in the game is one weapon of each particular weapon type that can get up to primeval rarity again, and that weapon is awesome. Generally it has like super unique effects. It could have skill cooldown, it will do some type of proc damage effect, and they have really cool epics again, guys. And one cool quality of life thing that they did is they basically almost across the board they've removed weapon mastery, so you're not really locked into the weapon type anymore. Okay, they might still have some of them around, like for instance Weapon Master and Blade Master. They both still have their weapon masteries, and you still have to level them up, and they get different effects depending on what weapons that they're using. That's kind of core to their identity of the character. But for pretty much everyone else, that is no longer a limitation. You can pretty much wear almost any weapon type as long as you don't need a special mastery for it. On my EK, I'm just wearing a short sword, okay, because I got an epic short sword. It is way stronger than anything else I have ever gotten, because it's epic and it's really strong. So, until I can get a better weapon, I'm just going to rock this short sword until something else drops. So that's kind of the cool thing, is that they have these cool epics. Like, for instance, all of the Slayers, all the Knights, anybody who can wear a Slayer type weapon is using Yang Ul's Bludgeon, okay, because it gives a lot of cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction is something that's really lacks in this cap, because you make up a lot of your damage elsewhere. You want to get that cooldown reduction somewhere. Yang Ul's is an awesome weapon, and it's a bludgeon, which is pretty rare for most characters. Obviously, my paladin wore bludgeon all the time anyway, but for the most part, most people were rocking other types of weapons. Now, pretty much everyone's rocking bludgeon again, so that's pretty cool that it's available to everyone, and they have really cool, unique effects. Look across your weapons. Again, you don't have a lot of choice here, but you can transfer your weapons, if you get a really good one, to another character on your account using the catalog system, using Transcendence system. Still a feature of the game. I'm a big fan of adding in cool epic weapons again, guys. Trust me. Epic weapons were the coolest things of DFO, in my opinion. They always have cool weapons. I still remember by name a lot of these epic weapons, okay? Yang Sword, Byalam Gum, all these fucking cool ass Zombados that I had to farm back in the day. I don't know. I keep remember Seams, but then they had Deus Imagery. Yeah, that's another one. I remember all these cool epics because they were so good and something to look forward to. You just look through the catalog, you're like, oh, that's the one I want. I'm looking for that one. I want to wish list that one. And that's one thing I miss out of like 100 cap, is that was a really fun to just get a wish list epic and just know you're like, yes, I'm done forever. This cap obviously has the same kind of idea, except it's now with the primeval rarity, so there's many layers of RNG on top of it. Like, for instance, I have the Yang Ul sword, but I only have the legendary version, and unfortunately that's not good enough to compete with a random epic that I find that I can put on. So unfortunately I can't use Yang Ul's yet, but if I do get our Yang Ul's epic rarity, I'm gonna slap that on. I'm gonna be gaming, dude, let me tell you. And don't even get me started. If I get the primeval one, it's over. But I'm really excited that they have cool epics like that. Look through them on your character, and don't think that you're kind of forced into your epic into your weapon type like you have been in the past. Like, for instance, my striker may have a boxing glove passive. However, I get the cooldown reduction off of any weapon type, not just boxing glove. The passive has been changed to allow me to wear boxing gloves, but I get to keep the cooldown reduction no matter what weapon type I'm using. Same thing with my skirmisher. I was a little bit confused because he still has a passive called the Long Lance Mastery, but you still get the damage bonus regardless of what weapon type. You don't have to be wearing a long lance to get the damage increase. I've kind of done that across the board, so try it out yourself. If you don't believe me, I think it's pretty cool that they've allowed everybody to wear any weapon type and not be penalized or forced into a particular build like you have been in previous caps, basically since forever. I think it's really nice. They did away with the armor masteries like that, I think back in 95 cap, but now they finally did it to weapons. Great quality of life change that makes gearing just that much more free. Okay, now it's time for me to get to my core complaints with this level cap. After playing it for a week, again, we don't have all the content. We're still just kind of getting a feel, getting a taste for the game. But I do have 3 kind of core complaints around the game. Okay, first and foremost, guys, the 20 character limit. So let me explain first. DFO has limited how many characters that you can have participate in both the daily and weekly content for rewards. Okay, I'm talking the daily missions and the advanced dungeons. They only allow 20 characters on your account to participate in this content. Now, at first, you might hear that number, 20 character limit, right? And think, okay, the reason they put this in is because they don't want people going overboard crazy. Some people like myself are just altaholics. They have every character in the game, and it'd be super broken if they could just play every single character and benefit off of all of this free stuff. It's reasonable, just thinking it like that, it's pretty reasonable that they cap it like this, to stop people like this from abusing the cap. But honestly, guys, when you start to think about it some more and realize that this 20 character limit is not so much a limitation to altaholics, it's actually becoming an incentive for everybody to become altaholics themselves. Any way that you slice it, guys, you need all 20 characters to efficiently play this cap. Remember one of the pros that I mentioned in this cap, right? The fact that souls are a count-bound resource that you can use to craft gear and transfer gear and all of that. Dailies and especially weeklies are the surefire way to get gear and to get souls, especially so. And with the 20 characters grinding, you have the highest amount of soul generation and the number of opportunities to get a wider range of epics to use or, potentially transfer if you get something really good. So every month you have the opportunity at the Grimoire NPC to open unique grade pots, and to get all of them per month, you're going to need 80 unique souls, okay? Guys, I had more than 120 unique souls within the first week, and I wasn't even trying that hard. But the truth is, the only reason I had that many souls is because I had 20 characters to abuse in order to get it. If you didn't have the 20 characters, guys, you would struggle to get the 120 souls needed within the week or so that you had before the next month. I'm just saying, it's so much more efficient. The crazy thing is, right, these characters that you have don't even need to have any gear. They can just be 20 bodies that you slap a starter set on, and they're already good enough to use for the good content. If you only had a few strong characters to play, honestly, I'd say you'd be struggling severely to stay afloat in the progression, let alone keeping up with the people who are abusing their account to the max. Now, you could make the argument that the last level cap also had this problem, right? Farming customs was infinitely easier for me because I had a lot of characters who I could use to dump cubes onto custom gear, right? But with how rare certain gear is and how all-encompassing souls are in this cap, the power of alts is miles ahead in this cap over all of the previous ones. For veterans, I bet we all have 20 or so characters, or maybe a top 12 or something to abuse. But honestly, guys, it's extremely difficult for me to make that argument for new players trying to get into the game. To tell them, yeah, like, it's cool that you have one character to farm their whole FP on. Yeah, that's nice. But imagine if you had 20. And then they start to think, like, all the things they're missing out because they don't have 20 characters to just run through dailies, weeklies, and a bunch of FP if they wanted to. I mean, that is something that I think is a big problem in this cap, where the 20 character limit isn't so much a limit as it is a incentive or goal to actually efficiently grind in this cap. Now, I mean, I just have a wild idea here that could fix it. I mean, would it be the end of the world if you just allowed an option for a character to get like enhanced rewards just by utilizing those 20 entry limits as like some kind of currency? Like, for instance, say you wanted to play like 4 characters. You could reallocate those resources such that they would have gotten by doing 20 runs instead onto those 4 characters. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should be able to funnel 20 runs worth of gear onto one character, because I think that'd be broken as hell and destroy the complete pacing of this cap. But I am saying at least they should get a lot more souls and the Doom Oracles than is currently possible with the limited characters. Having it work like this is far more forgiving and versatile for people who don't have or don't want to play like 20 fucking characters a week, dude. And, that way you can plan around your roster and real life schedule and play with as many characters as you want without feeling compelled to commit to 20. And they aren't going to do that, of course. Like I said, this is just how this cap is going to play out. But hopefully, I mean, it gets the point across now, guys, that 20 characters, even if you have no gear, is necessary to play this cap optimally. Obviously, you don't need to have 20 characters, but I'm saying you can't compete with people who have more characters than you. Up to 20 characters. You can't even compete is what I'm thinking. My next problem, and again, I mentioned this earlier as one thing that I think is awesome in this cap, is the fact that you can actually use some of the old gear that you have, the old epics, for utility. However, one of the major problems that I have is that they removed all the old methods to get those old epics. So, like, why on earth don't we have a way to buy old epic boxes like we did in the previous cap? Okay, for instance, there should be an NPC or something that sells the old selectable epic boxes for the new tokens that we're farming. In fact, it's my belief that you should have a box that has all the old epics and just let us go ham. I get it. Some epics like Amnesia Ring and 85 cap were too broken, so they wouldn't be allowed in this cap. But I mean, you just nerf those specific things and make sure that people can't potentially get a big damage boost when compared to this cap's equivalent, and you're not going to have a problem. I mainly want to use this feature, or as I have been using it, just for the utility of it all. Getting a specific slot of gear that has this really cool effect is a really cool thing. So it really doesn't make sense that the new players don't have the option to kind of access these old epics and access this portion of the game. Okay, now the old epics, if you have been disassembling them, the exchange rate, the equivalent, is about 1 Doom Oracle per epic soul. of the old type. So if you're worried that people are going to abuse it somehow, then make them cost like 10 Doom Oracles or some shit, you know? The fact that only veterans get to experience and abuse this ability to use 1 or 2 epics with unique effects is just so stupid. And it's going to be a theme for most of the complaints I have with this cap. As I get into my last point, guys, how exactly do you get curse gear, okay? My last complaint revolves around curse gear, and I'm just looking at all the things that they've taken out, okay? They've removed Noblesse Code, which in the previous cap was my de facto way to get curse gear. It's like the last video I made was talking about how to farm curse gear. And luckily I did for most of my account, and I got to benefit off of farming Noblesse Code because it was a really, really effective way to get a whole set of curse gear on any character that you wanted. So you not only got a lot of them with Noblesse Code, you got to funnel them precisely on the character and slot that you wanted to. It was so awesome. So they removed that. Okay, they also removed the coin system from the old Legion dungeons. Okay, I'm talking Crispins, I'm talking Dusky. Okay, they removed all the Legion coins from those, which makes sense considering nowadays you could probably one-shot Largo if you went in there with the new gear. But the coins were an easy way to get several amplification scrolls every month. Okay, so they removed that as well. And barring these methods back in the old days of the last cap, you could always rely on the gear that dropped from Hell Mode, because in all the caps prior, Hell Mode always dropped epics, and those epics were very often cursed. So you couldn't help but getting a full curse set if you just ran Hell Mode on that character consistently. Now looking back at this cap, I have gotten cursed gear, but it has only ever showed up cursed if it dropped as an epic, which are much rarer to get in this cap. I've not even seen a cursed rare or unique gear. I'm not saying it's not possible because I just haven't seen it, but I am saying if it does drop cursed, it must be extremely rare. I don't know if it does, to be honest. So they removed Noblesse Code, right? Legion tokens and your Hells don't produce cursed gear nearly as often as they did in the previous cap. So the question is, how exactly do you get curse gear now? This is something I think that's even more important now, because curse gear gives even higher stat bonuses than before because they give additional overall damage. So you buffed up the effectiveness of curse gear in this cap, but you also made it multitudes harder to obtain them. What is the fucking point about that, dude? Now, I don't want to rant and elaborate on this much further because, admittedly, I may be missing something here, okay, guys? Maybe there's a really easy way to get them that I might be overlooking, or perhaps it's something that will be made easier once we get more content like Legion Dungeons. I have no idea. But, guys, as it exists now, this 115 cap has removed a lot of the 110 content, features, and items without bothering to replace them with an equivalent. I mean, just think back to all of my core complaints in this cap, okay? Most of those complaints, in fact, all of them, do not affect me personally at all, okay? I am an altaholic. I have more than enough characters to abuse the 20 character limit. I'm a veteran that has played all of the previous caps. I already have a copy of all of these cool ass old epics to abuse in this one. And lastly, nearly all of my characters have full amps because it's one of the few things that I was doing at the end of the previous cap, was just getting amps to prepare for this one. So I guess my biggest complaint with this cap revolves around this concept of like veteran privilege, right? Why is it that it's only us veterans that get to abuse the game in ways that new players can't, okay? I don't have to suffer the problems that only new players are facing right now, okay? Special attention should have been made to the old content that was being adjusted or removed such that it made the game easier for new players. And yet for some reason, some aspects of the game are made straight up harder by the removal of certain content and NPC items, okay? Do not think I forgot about that stat line that only about 10% of new players were sticking around in the previous cap, okay? This is a huge topic I talked about in one of my previous podcasts, that we just can't retain any new players, okay? And my argument there was it's hard to do that when the cap has lasted for so long, right? Well, don't you think that the complaints that I have now in this cap make that problem even worse? I'd even argue it's the reason that you have this problem in the first place, guys. If I'm a new player, right, and I see all these people with full amps, cool gear that I can't even get anymore, and like 20 fucking characters that they can abuse, I'm not going to stick around and try to force myself to play the game because I've already missed the train. And it'd be way too hard now to try and catch up. It's just too much, too overbearing. Why would I try to bother doing that when I've missed out on so much content? Now, like I said, in 110 cap, it was an unfortunate truth that the cap was out for nearly 3 years. So it kind of made sense that it was unwelcoming for a newbie to try to catch up in this scenario. But guys, I find it to be so inexcusably stupid to have this problem and the same issues at the start of a brand new level cap. Okay, you had the opportunity to redesign everything and make the game easier and more welcoming for newbies, and yet there are many aspects that are harder now than they've ever been in the past. It's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous problem to have. Okay, Neopol, I've said this many times. Okay, I may be a knight, but I am not a white knight. Okay, I'm ready to criticize you guys at a moment's notice over anything. But the times that I have been the most frustrated at this game were the times where I felt like the new player experience was being undermined. I remember this clearly. The most mad that I have ever gotten in this game was when they nerfed the 2+2 dungeons back at the end of the 100 cap, right around the release of DNF Duel. Okay, do you guys remember that? Okay, you guys took this monumentous opportunity to build up a new player base and directly undermine them at the worst possible fucking time. Okay, I will never forget that. I will never forgive you for that. I am still pissed about that. And this is not much different, guys. Okay, this is honestly not that much different. Here we are, yet again, at the start of 115 cap, and I'm struggling to tell players on stream what the strategy for them should be for this cap, okay? Do I tell them to make 20 fucking characters? Do I tell them to simply ignore all of the pink stats on their gear for now until they can make it easier to get later? Do I tell them that I'm moving at 53% move speed because I got this old epic earring, but fuck you, okay? Why is it like this for new players? Again, none of this affects me. It all affects brand new players, and it sucks balls, okay? It'd be really easy to fix all of these problems that I've mentioned. Have the epic box, selectable old epic box, somewhere available for purchase. Make sure it's not abusable, of course. You want people to engage in the new cap, but you have this cool feature that I want everyone to experience, not just the veterans who played in the previous cap. I don't want new players to feel like they're completely fucked because they didn't play the previous caps or they can't use these cool items. Why? For what? What are you scared of? It's obviously available in the game. The gear still works, but you only have it available for veterans. Or maybe you just haven't thought about it. So now I'm telling you straight up. Think about these kinds of things, Neil, because it's very annoying. It's my biggest pet peeve. It is something that, how can I ever promote something that is exclusive only to people who have been around the whole time? I see new players coming onto the stream all the time. I don't know what to tell them anymore. I don't know what to tell them. Fuck you, I guess. Because that's what you're saying to them. Fuck you if you want to have 53% move speed. Fuck you, currently. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous, unnecessary problem to have. End rant. But anyway, guys, hope I was able to get my points across. I don't want to leave on this sour mood. I know I just ranted. But I do want to say, guys, I'm still really enjoying this cap. I am obviously still progressing all of my characters. I just joined a raid, actually, today. I joined a Moo raid with my EK, who's been grinding like crazy for the past couple of weeks. I'm like 54,000 fame. I joined this Moo raid. Bruh, I deleted Moo so fast. Like, I don't want to say single-handedly, but I'm just going to say, guys, I did a lot of fucking damage to this kid. This bit. You are so strong now. It's kind of fun steamrolling old stuff like that, and it's just obvious that I'm getting much stronger. And I am doing the latest content that the game has to offer right now. So I'm still staying up to date with it. I'm not getting lucky as other people. The freaking Locke has a primeval Zambato already on his EK. What the fuck is that, man? Anyway, lucky Locke, like usual. But eventually, hopefully, I can get a Yangles and show him up with that weapon. But I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, I've been running out of hells to do on my EK. I don't know how I'm going to keep sustaining my hells because I've been doing hells for the past few weeks straight, nonstop. But, hopefully that they'll add more content for us to do. Hopefully they'll give us more means of getting hell modes, because right now I feel like I'm running out of hell modes every week. After my initial weeklies are done, it's like, dude, I don't have any hells left to do. And I'm trying to progress my characters, man. Not just my EK, but it's getting hard to gear other characters now because the grind doesn't really end, right? It's like I'm farming all of these hells, hundreds of hells, and I don't have like much to show for it aside from a bunch of legendaries. And I'd say I got most of those legendaries from the boxes, which I used by funneling my alts to fund that with the souls. So it's a very weird system that they have right now. That progression is not really tied to the epics grinding like it has been in previous caps. It's kind of more tied to how you can utilize your souls to kind of get the results that you want. But I'm abusing that right now. It's kind of what I'm doing to keep busy, and I am staying on top of it. So anyway, guys, hope you guys are enjoying the cap. Again, my cons should not lead you away to playing this cap. There's a lot to be had in terms of fun, and I just wish that that Neopol can maybe address some of them and make it easier, like for instance, to get the old gear again. Just add back the old epics, man. Just add a box. Simple, really simple. Make it cost tokens, make it cost oracles. I don't care. Just make it available again, please. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening. I am done. Nights. Begone.